call the May 20th, 2019 meeting to order, and welcome to our meeting. We are happy to have each and every one of you with us, along with the citizens in the adjoining room. Commissioner Glenn Adams will bring us the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Madam Chair, it is my privilege today to invite Reverend Curitan Johnson, Pastor Emeritus of First Baptist Church on Moore Street, who is recently retired, to bring us our invocation today. He was pastor there for over 28 years. His father was a pastor. His grandfather was a circuit preacher. And as he was growing up, he told everyone that he wasn't going to be a preacher. He knew how those midnight hours were. But God always has other plans. And he graduated from UNC Chapel Hill in 1971, got a Master's of Divinity from Shaw University, and in 1973 married to Lena Good, who he tells everybody was the love of his life and still is. He has two boys. He has always spoken out for the oppressed in this community. He has spoken up for the disenfranchised, and he has championed social justice and stood tall for those who could not stand up for themselves. And as he brings 28 years of closure to this community, I thought it was fitting that he come and lead us in our invocation today, and I'll follow with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone would stand. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to share a prayer with you tonight. Let us look to the hills from whence cometh our help, knowing that our help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Precious Lord, we gather right now to ask for your holy presence among us tonight. We pray for the leaders of our local government and for the men and women who serve in Cumberland County. We thank you, dear Lord, for their sacrifice, for their dedication, and for their service to our community. Also, we lift up their families to you tonight, asking for blessings upon their health and strength and welfare. Lord, you are the God who keeps us day by day. Now preserve your public servants from hurt, harm, and danger. Preserve their very hearts, souls, minds, and spirits. We are your people and the sheep of your pasture, and we beseech you to be our ever-present help in these challenging times of governing. Precious Lord, we pray that the wealthy citizens among us may show great compassion toward their poor neighbors. And please, Lord, empower the most needy persons among us to prosper. Grant unto these thy servants the wisdom of Solomon and the strength of Deborah. Anoint them with your oil of gladness, that they may reason together tonight with attitudes of goodwill and with hearts full of love. Finally, we give you honor and glory, O Lord, for what you have already accomplished in our county commissioners through their hard work. And we thank you in advance for leading and guiding. Now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up her countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Amen.
And amen.
We can do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Johnson, come on away. You shake her hand right there. Oh, come on, little man.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I didn't do a line.
Roy Williams, you're behind us. There you go, Pastor Rush. Right, yeah, you were. We get a picture too.
We got to take a picture.
Well, you got to slide down this way, Yeah, right there, there you go.
Let's see. Wait a minute. it?
We did. One, two, three. One more?
Thank you.
Glenn, is that you prop us out?
That's just what he said.
Always.
I don't think he has any pull with that one, though. We'll crop it us out.
I'd like the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council members, Justice Locke and Courtney Streeter, to come to the podium, introduce yourselves, and tell us your schools, and we will call on you at the end of the meeting.
My name is Justice Locke. I go to Grace Creek High School and I'm a senior.
Which school?
Grace Creek High School.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Courtney's not here, but I'm Sarah Richardson, and I'm a senior at Deborah.
Sarah, okay, I am so sorry.
You're fine.
You'll come back and critique us at the end.
Okay.
All right.
Critique him.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
You can get a picture with Glenn.
And get a picture with me. That's the highlight of the evening.
At this time, it gives me great pleasure to recognize some people that are very special guests with us tonight. First off, Diane Chandler is the secretary of the Cumberland Disaster Recovery Coalition, and she joined the CDRC in 2011, shortly after tornadoes struck Cumberland County. We're so fixed on hurricanes, we've forgotten tornadoes, haven't we? At least I have. And she has been instrumental in that group's growth and success. The Cumberland County Disaster Recovery Coalition is a long-term recovery group that includes nonprofits, faith-based, and charitable organizations working together to meet the unmet needs of Cumberland County residents affected by state and federally declared disasters. On May 14th of this year, Ms. Chandler received the Governor's Award for volunteer service in recognition of her contributions to the coalition's effort over the years, especially following Hurricane Matthew in 2016. The award honors the true spirit of volunteerism by recognizing individuals, groups, and businesses that make a significant contribution to their community through volunteer service. Al Foote, the Administrative Officer for Medicaid Transportation and Disaster Coordination at the Department of Social Services, nominated Ms. Chandler for the award. He stated that in the wake of Hurricane Matthew, Ms. Chandler helped the CDRC stand up to a very different disaster. Her detailed minutes have allowed the CDRC to maintain records documenting the coalition's rise from a small group to a nonprofit long-term recovery group, which that's a real thing, LTRG. And now to one of the most productive and successful long-term recovery groups in the state. Please join me in congratulating Ms. Chandler for her award. Will you please come forward? I know somebody's already presented this to you. This is our opportunity to do the same, and we thank you and we salute you, and this is yours. And at this time, if you have any remarks to make, the floor is yours.
I just want to say I'm very honored and very humbled to receive this award, but it truly should go to the whole Cumberland Disaster Recovery Coalition because they are the ones that make it work. Thank you very much.
We do that.
Ms. Chairman. We need a photo, please. Stand beside her, please.
Marshall gonna be like, "Hey, crop 'em out."
Yeah, upstage and Glenn.
Glasses. Thank you.
Next up, each year the Cumberland Soil and Water Conservation District sponsors middle school and high school teams in Envirothon competitions. Envirothon is a competition that teaches young people about natural resources and resource problems. The Board of Commissioners is pleased to recognize the 100-Acre Woods Envirothon team from 71st Classical Middle School for winning the second place trophy in the Area 7 competition and second place at the state competition. The 71st Classical Middle School Envirothon team advisor is Victoria Gemelli, a sixth grade science teacher at the school, and the team members are, as I call your name, please come up if you're here. Emmy Tang. Yaminga Ma. Is that right? Okay. Joshua Myung. Have I got that right? If I pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry. Joshua's not with us. Cheryl Lee. Come on up, ladies, up this way. Right? And Jennifer Yu. Okay, Jennifer. And is Ms. Gemelli in the audience as well? Please come up with this group. Here. She's bringing the trophy with her. The Envirothon teams are tested on their knowledge of natural resources, soils, forestry, wildlife, aquatics, and current environmental issues. Students visit 5 in-the-field test stations where written and hands-on problem solving is required. Although the event is competitive, education is the bottom line. Today we salute these young people, and we'll ask Ms. Gemelli if she wants to make any comments on behalf of the group. Do you have a spokesman among you?
I do not. They're very quiet, studious.
Very quiet. I salute that too. Do we have anything? Okay, they've got their own trophy. Okay, let's just get a picture and then we'll shake hands. Where's John? 71st Classical Middle School Envirothon team.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Come back here.
Yeah, we're going. I keep forgetting. We can't get away from that. Let me see if I can get a fun blend. Good luck. I'll tell you what, I'll get on the other side of the lady.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good to go.
On the bus. I know. No, I stayed off the bus.
We got you on the bus one time.
Yeah, we were on the ag trip the other day together. We visited some farms. That was most enjoyable. Last but not least, I think I see a group here I recognize. I'm pleased tonight to present the Fayetteville Running Club with the Cumberland Cares Award in recognition of their volunteer fundraising efforts to benefit local charities and scholarships for young people. The Fayetteville Running Club is a registered 501c3 nonprofit that uses their love of running to have a positive impact not only on their own lives but on the lives of others. In 2018, now listen to this, listen to all this. Now I got 2 pages of this stuff. Not going to read it all. Yes, I am. In 2018, this club donated a total of over $10,000 to local charities and scholarships. Every month, the club selects a local charity and makes a $500 donation. which comes from the proceeds of their annual Firecracker 4-miler race. Last year's 12 recipients of the donations were the Falcons Children's Home, Fayetteville Area Operation Inasmuch, the Rape Crisis Center, Care Clinic, Action Pathways, Autism Society of Cumberland County, the Dream Center, Puppy Creek Breast Cancer Race, the Bicycle Man, the Aloha Rescue Zoo, Fayetteville Urban's Ministry, and Rick's Place. What's Rick's Place? Okay. Seriously, what's Rick's Place? Don't even answer that. I'm kidding. In addition to these monthly donations, which that's a lot of money, the club also donated $2,000 to the Gold Star Team Program, which sends children of fallen soldiers to summer camp, and gave out 2 $1,000 scholarships to 2 college-bound Cumberland County high school seniors. Whew, man, these folks are doing something besides running. They're busy. In March of 2018, the club worked with the Cumberland County Public Information Office in coordinating a St. Patrick's Day Lucky Dog 3K for the Cumberland County Animal Control Department to raise awareness and almost $1,000 in cash, food, and toys. For the past 5 years, the running club has worked closely with the Cumberland County Sheriff's Office on the annual Special Olympics Torch Run. The Fayetteville Running Club has 220 official members. They're not all here. With thousands of social media followers. The board is made up of well-trained professional people, several of whom are Cumberland County employees, whom I recognize. Please join me in thanking these club members for their volunteer efforts. Who's the spokesman for this group? Who wants to talk? Oh, come on. I was going to pick on Steve King because he's my neighbor, but you.
Do we want to?
Just say a few words, we'll bring them all up.
Okay. So like Steve said, most people think of us just a bunch of people running around the neighborhood, but we're actually a registered 501c3. And we do a lot of, I can't even tell you the countless number of hours that everybody puts into different things within the community besides the race that we put on. So I'll stick with that.
That's fantastic. We'd like at this point, at this time, to present you with this award, and I would ask your group to come up if they will, and just stand behind us.
Okay.
I'll get on the other side.
I got my membership card.
I didn't know y'all were in it.
Somebody's got to hand out that.
This is quite a group. Steve King is my neighbor, and I see them getting ready to run over in Bordeaux parking lot all the time, and I really want to join them. Let me get over here, buddy.
Doing jazz hands? No way. No jazz.
All right. No, that's so Friday.
Steve, I'll shake your hand one more time. You got this. Oh, hey, Marshall, good to see you. Thank you. Thank y'all for what you do.
I wear it.
It's a fantastic group. Thank you.
And now, if we could, call on County Manager Amy Cannon.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair,
Wait a
this
minute,
evening.
I haven't finished.
I apologize.
I hadn't finished reading ahead. I think I left something out. I did. The Cumberland County Spring 2019 Citizens Academy graduates. Sally, would you call the names of the graduates for me, please? And I'm going to ask you to please stand as your name is called.
Okay, so the Citizens Academy was held April 2nd through May 7th. 22 individuals completed the program and received their certificates in a short ceremony on May 7th. Our public information officer partners with various departments to create a program designed to educate, empower, and engage. So I'd ask the citizens to stand up who have completed the program. Melvin Acosta, Jeff Brooks, Doreen Brown, Christopher Cheek, Meta Weaver Coaxum, Catherine Crumpler, Caitlin Crumpler, Anthony Dada, June Edmonds, Kitty Elrod, Karen Grays, Irene Grimes, Shakayla Ingram, Aaron Mansfield, Jeremy Martin, Brene Orazuco, Thurston Plumley, Tyler Romero, Edwin Samuelin, Kenneth Shelton, Stephen Stanfield, and Scott Weaver. So congratulations. We'd like you to come through and greet the commissioners and have your pictures made.
Always good to see you again. God bless you. Good to see you this evening. Thank you.
She speaks well. She's done it. She's done it a couple times. Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
Did you have a good time?
Congratulations.
Did you learn? You didn't know all the things happening. Hey, how are you? Did you like it?
Good to see you. God bless you.
It's a great program. What was your favorite part? What was your favorite part?
It was from start to finish.
Did you enjoy it? Good. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Good to see you. Congratulations.
Did you enjoy it?
Well, you've been in everything, man. Congratulations.
Well, you know, we
Hey, Doc.
try
Good to see you.
to
God
work
bless
with
you.
everybody. Hey, did you like it? What was your favorite part?
Hey, partner. Good to see you. How's work? Work coming along, okay?
The landfill is great. The
Okay.
landfill's a lot of fun.
Back around this way.
Same thing, okay? Just to let you know I'm here, that's all. Oh, wow, you're gonna have to Get something to stand on, is that right?
I should have had this out earlier. Okay. Everybody look at me. Kenneth, can you get on this side? Okay. I can't see Meta. There you go. All right. Everybody look at Christopher a little bit this way. I can see you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're good to go. Thank you. It was good.
Jimmy, he wasn't kidding. He actually said going in and get.
Why you telling on me, man?
You admitted it.
I did. I should have known it.
If I could ask for a 2-minute break, we need to get the citizens who are in 119 to move into this location now that we have more seating. Okay? You two hold up the line.
Who?
You and
No.
Charles only spoke to one lady. That's right. No, he spoke to one lady and there's a person.
That took 20 minutes.
Glenn's a photo thing. Charles is a person.
That's right.
Charles was actually speaking to someone he knew for a while. Glenn was just talking about the as a photo.
Man trying to get everybody in the picture. Look, he gone.
I've actually got a nephew.
all right, if you could come on in and have a seat, we'd appreciate it.
He just ain't gonna tell him crop us out.
You two all right. That ends up in there. Never get to see the light of the Let's put the chairman down.
You can either participate or donate to the Gary Weller family. Would you like to participate in the Trojan Challenge? You can participate for the opposite. Mark was going to do it this year. He weaseled out last year.
How are you? It's good to see you. Doing good.
Okay, if we could have our seats, and we'll continue with the meeting. Mrs. Warfield?
Rick, the chair called.
I'm going to come.
Mr. Moore.
We are not going to allow. Did he sign up? Did the property owner sign up? Was he allowing his time to go to them?
I mean, look, I'm with
God help you through this. And I got to hear from you. Not deferral, withdrawal. All right. Now, I'll call on County Manager Amy Cannon to give us the public comment policy.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The public comment period is an opportunity for the commissioners to hear from interested citizens. Each speaker will have a maximum of 3 minutes. No time may be yielded to another speaker. We ask that all speakers, as they come to the lectern, to please begin their remarks by stating their name and their address. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there public comment speakers?
Commissioners, we have one speaker this evening. I would call Judge Tony King.
Okay, Judge King.
Good evening. My name is District Court Judge Tony King. My address is 117 Dick Street, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28301. I was asked to stand in for Judge Robert Steele to give the county the population of the jail being 639 inmates as of April 18th of 2019, 678 inmates on April 25th of 2019, and as of May 17th of 2019, there were 671 inmates. Also for the month of April, we are pleased to report that no district courts went beyond 5 p.m. and that the district court is in the process of establishing a human trafficking court where we received a grant to establish this court. Our anticipated kickoff date is June 27th of 2019. We also are looking for local providers so that they can receive funding from this grant. If they are interested, they need to contact my office and speak with Bobby Maddox or Daisy Thorne to receive a Human Traffic Commission standards package, and that is so that they can receive some benefits that may flow from this grant. Also, on June 28th of 2019, the Human Trafficking Court, along with Human Trafficking Court Solutions, will host a training with Dr. Sharon Cooper. That this training is free to the public. It's to identify human trafficking. It will be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Department of Social Services, that there are CLE and CJE credits pending, that registration is open to the public and will be available on Eventbrite. And that is all the comments that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge King.
I think she did a whole lot better than the other one.
They're requesting you to come back.
No, every Monday night.
Yeah.
Every third Monday night.
Monthly, in lieu of.
They were requesting you to come back every third Monday night because you speak faster.
Please don't put that request in.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
That concludes the public comment speakers. Madam Manager,
We have no changes this evening.
there are no changes to the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Are there items to be removed from the consent agenda? Not, I need a motion, please.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Next section is public hearings.
Yes,
County
ma'am.
Manager?
Yes, ma'am. Item 3 are our uncontested rezoning cases. The first case is case P0775. Mr. Strickland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first case before you tonight is case P0775. This is a modification of the permit for an approved CP planned commercial conditional use district for mini warehousing with outside storage of motor vehicles, retail and office space, second floor dwelling and car wash, with the permit allowing for religious worship facilities, restaurants, recreation amusement, indoor, conducted for profit, and barbering and hairdressing services salons, consisting of 11.66 acres located at the southern quadrant of Camden Road and Rockfish Road, submitted by Mr. Michael Wackespack on behalf of Cam Rocks. This case went to the planning board on April 16th, and the planning board unanimously recommended approval of the modification to the CP Plan Commercial CUD Conditional Use District to add the permitted uses of religious worship facility, restaurant, recreation, amusement, indoor, conducted for profit, and barbering and hairdressing services salons at that meeting. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those, or if we need to open up the case, we can.
Are there questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on case P7-75. Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers.
I will close the public hearing. Are there questions? Mr. Fairclough.
Madam Chair, I don't have a question, but if you'll entertain it at this time, I would move that we approve the modification of the CP Plan Commercials Conditional Use District to add the additional permitted uses of religious worship facility, restaurant, recreation, amusement, indoor, conducted for profit, and barbering and hairdressing services salons, and find this recommendation to be consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan of 2013, which calls for heavy commercial at this location. All of the requested additional uses are allowed within the CP Plan Commercial District, which is classified as heavy commercial zoning, and further find that approval of this request is reasonable and in the public interest because the modification requested is in harmony with the surrounding zoning and existing land uses.
I'll second that motion. Are there questions or discussion? If not, prepare to vote. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 3B is case P1916.
Yes, case P1916 is the rezoning of .2 acres from R6A residential to CP Plain Commercial or to a more restrictive zoning district located at 1100 Honeycutt Road, submitted by Mark Rakunu on behalf of Genus Property Holdings and Terry C. Faircloth. At the planning board unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning from R6A residential to CP Plain Commercial at their April 16th, 2019 meeting. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those, or if we need to open the case, we can.
All right. Thank you. Are there speakers?
There are no speakers.
No speakers. I'll open the public hearing. I'll ask you again if there's speakers.
There are no speakers for this case.
I'll close the public hearing. Questions, discussion? Mr. Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland. I noticed this property seems to be in a neighborhood, but is established as 3C of some existing property. What is on that property now?
There is a car lot on the property beside it, and some of the cars were on the subject property. So it's currently not in compliance. The applicant is asking for the rezoning to bring them into compliance.
Okay. It's also going across the street, too. I mean...
The C3 is not the rezoning.
But on the other part it's contiguous to the C3. So...
Yes.
They're trying to add on to that same existing.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all my questions, Madam Chair.
Well,
Thank you.
I just have a question, though, since you asked that. What's behind that? Because where the line is for the C3 and what they're rezoning, the part behind that is still residential? No, pull that back. Just half the lot. You see where half the lot is, where the red is? Those 4 behind there, right there, what are those?
I believe those are residential. Can you get to them? Yeah, it is residential, Commissioner Adams. It's zoned R6A.
It's the same plat, though.
So at some point, that was rezoned C3
That's correct.
and left the rest of it?
R6.
So we just piecemealing this?
That's right.
I mean, why do we piecemeal? Why don't we just take the whole thing right there? I mean, are there dwellings on it already? There are dwellings on it. Are they his, or the owners, or they sold to individuals, or?
I think he owns one of the ones.
Uh-huh.
He owns the 3 across the front, that one.
And then somebody else owns the other 2. And they didn't have any problem.
No, we haven't gotten any feedback.
Thank you.
Got to open the public hearing. Should I close the public hearing? Are there speakers? Did I ask for speakers?
Waiting for a motion.
I'm still waiting for a motion.
Yeah, motion, yeah.
Okay. In case I have a motion, Mr. Keefe, do you have one?
No, ma'am.
Well, okay, I do, if you want me to do it. I've got the motion right here.
Okay.
In case P 19-16, I move to approve the rezoning from R6A residential to CP Plan Commercial and find A, the approval is an amendment to the adopted current North Fayetteville Land Use Plan 2003 map, and the Board of Commissioners should not require any additional request or application or amendment to said map for this request. And B, the following change in conditions was considered in amending the zoning ordinance to meet the development needs of the community. The subject property meets most of the location criteria for heavy commercial as defined in the Land Use Policies Plan 2009 and will be recombined with the western adjacent property to provide sufficient area for pedestrian and vehicular movement, buffering and landscaping for commercial development. And finally, C, this rezoning approval is reasonable and in the public interest because the district requested is in harmony with the adjacent existing land uses, and zoning and approval of this request will allow the development of currently vacant property.
Thank you. I'll second that motion. Are there additional questions? If not, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion?
That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Our next case, Madam Chair, is 3C, Case P 1917.
Yes, case P 1917 is the rezoning of 3.33 acres from RR residential to CP planned commercial or to a more restrictive zoning district located at 6585 Rockfish Road, submitted by Gerald and Betty Honeycutt on behalf of Honeycutt Corporation and Mark Candler on behalf of Ahlbishi Convenience Stores and Rentals. The Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of the rezoning from RR Rural Residential to CP Planned Commercial at their April 16, 2019 meeting. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
All right.
Madam
Going
Chair.
to open.
This is contiguous to another one we just did. Is there any, are they the same owners, or are they trying to do anything together on this?
It is not the same owner. This property owner also owns the corner C1 piece there. And we do believe that the 3 parcels there are operating together to work on whatever their plans may be.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll open the public hearing.
There are no speakers.
There are no speakers. I'll close the public hearing. Are there questions or discussion? If not, in the case of P 1917, I move to approve the rezoning from RR Rural Residential to CP Planned Commercial and find this recommendation to be consistent with the Southwest Cumberland Land Use Plan 2013, which calls for heavy commercial at this location. CP Planned commercial is classified as a heavy commercial zoning district, and further find approval of the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the district requested is in harmony with surrounding zoning and existing land uses.
Second.
Seeing no buttons lit, those in favor of the motion?
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, item 3D moves us into our contested rezoning cases. The first one is case P 1919.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry. I've got to find it. Okay.
Mr. Strickland, my understanding is that the petitioner has withdrawn that request. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. I believe we got a request to withdraw this here at the meeting tonight.
Madam Chair, with the withdrawal of the request, it's over, that they're not going further, not going further with the request. So nothing will change with this zoning at this point.
All right.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess I got the question.
Mr. Adams?
Does that mean they can't bring it back for a whole nother year?
No, they could bring it back, but they'll have to start the whole process all over again. So we'd have, whatever they decide to do, it'd have to go back to planning board for a recommendation, and then it would have to come back to you also.
It'd be a new application, new fee, the whole works. This case is dead when they withdraw it.
What did you say, Mr. Moore?
It would be a new application, new fee. The existing case, when they withdraw it, is dead. It no longer exists.
All right.
Is there any reason why?
No action.
No action.
So there is no action.
There is no case any
There's
further.
no case. There's no action. We will not be considering it.
Call your next case.
The next case is,
Let them, they're gonna leave, I think, so they'll give them some time to clear on out. They have.
citizen, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And thank you for all your emails and calls and letters. We appreciate it. Appreciate your interest.
Oh, yeah, my seat. Oh, you know, I'm glad of mine. Oh, okay.
Good to see you, son.
We always feel that.
No, I was talking about those right there. Yes, we had those right there. Those ones I didn't like.
All right, may I call the next case? P 1835.
Yep.
Madam
Yes, ma'am.
Manager, you okay? Case P 1835, Mr. Strickland.
Yes, ma'am. Case P 1835, we are bringing this case back to you. You originally saw this case on March 18th at your meeting on that date. Again, this is a rezoning of 21.56 acres from MP planned industrial to CP planned commercial, or to a more restrictive zoning district located on both sides of Lazy Acres Street, east of Claude Lee Road, submitted by John Lee, Fred Lee, and James Lee, and James C. Robinson. Again, the planning board unanimously recommended denial of the rezoning from MP planned industrial to RRCZ for the recreational vehicle park and/or campground at their February 19th, 2019 meeting.
Madam Chair, if I could remind the board's action was to recess the public hearing. You would reopen that public hearing for the sole purpose of allowing the petitioner and the airport to present further evidence as to whether they had reached an agreement. That was what the board's directive was.
Well, did they? Did they reach an agreement?
No, my understanding from the airport is that they have not reached an agreement.
Okay.
All right, and did I not request that the at the last meeting that it come back in writing that they have reached an agreement.
We did receive a letter from the city, and that specifically stated that they met on May 9th, and at that May 9th meeting, they were unable to come to an agreement. That's correct.
You go ahead, do it. Go ahead, hit it. Mike got it.
Mr. Booth?
Madam Chair, in the case of P 1835, I move to approve the rezoning from MP Planned Industrial to RR Rural Residential CZ conditional zoning for a recreational vehicle park and/or campground subject to the conditions within our packet, and find the approval as an amendment to the adopted South Central Land Use Plan of 2015 map, and that the Board of Commissioners should not require any additional request or application for amendment to said map for this request. The following change in conditions was considered and the zoning needs, and this rezoning approval is reasonable in the public interest.
Mr. Bush, where those blank lines are, we need to put some language in there as to what the changes are and what the reasonable and public interest because portion is. I mean, we need to put some language in there.
Okay, we'll give him the, what is it?
Mr. Strickland, could you show us what the existing zoning is, point out for the record what the existing zoning is around there?
Sure, sorry.
Is that a mobile home park? What is the area there in yellow that's adjacent?
So the area in yellow is double wides. You can see the red there is commercial, the purple is industrial, and the blue is institutional.
What is the red commercial use? What is
the red commercial use is Lazy Acres RV Park,
which is consistent with what this zoning is requesting.
And my suggestion would be that the adjacent zoning consists of an additional RV park and a double-wide mobile home park. Is that a park or an individual owned?
It is a park.
It's a park. Would that be consistent with your motion, Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
And
I'm giving it.
consistently with that finding as to the adjacent zoning, Mr. Booth, would you agree that the rezoning approval is reasonable in the public's interest because it just extends the existing adjacent forms, uses of the adjacent property?
Correct. I jotted that down.
All right. P.
Do any commissioners, other commissioners have questions now to the exact wording on that motion?
I'm clear.
I can't hear any of that discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked, does anyone want that exact language read back? Or is everybody good with that now?
I don't, but it is a motion to approve, all
Yes,
right?
yes, ma'am.
And I made the second. Is everybody okay? Michael, you okay with the additional language?
Yes.
Okay, made the second.
All right.
Okay. We don't need to have another public hearing.
No, ma'am. This was a this was a recess of the public hearing you started 2 months ago.
Those in, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Those in favor?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Lancaster, Booth, Adams, and Evans. Voting in opposition, Commissioners Keefe, Faircloth, and Chairwoman Council.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, did you close the public hearing finally?
I think I did.
You did.
I'll close it again if I didn't. Thank you.
Madam Chair, our final public hearing is a public hearing on the 2019 Draft Community Development Annual Action Plan. Our Community Development Director, Ms. Dee Taylor, will come forward.
Community Development prepared its draft 2019 Annual Action Plan, which describes the resources that we plan to use to undertake projects, eligible projects during the upcoming program year beginning July 1 of 2019 through June 30th of 2020. And as required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, we distribute copies of the draft plan throughout various locations for public review and comment for a period of 30 days. The final version of the annual action plan, which will include the exact allocations and any public comments that we receive, will be brought before the board on at its June 3rd meeting for approval prior to the submission of HUD. So we are asking the board to hold the public hearing for tonight to allow for any public comment on the action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to open the public hearing.
There are no speakers.
I'll close the public hearing, and thank you. Item 4.
Yes, ma'am. We'll move to our items of business. Item 4A is consideration of county and city co-location of 911 communication services. Our Assistant Manager, Tracy Jackson, will present some information this evening.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. As you may recall, the city and county joint 911 committees met last Wednesday, May 15th, and the county offered the following tenets to the city in regard to co-location of 911 communication services. First, that co-location and consolidation are common goals for the county and the city to pursue. Second, a joint agreement must be in place between the county and city prior to the start of any construction. Third, the county and city will collaborate on the selection of an architectural and engineering firm for the project. Fourth, the county and city will authorize its respective staffs to collaborate on the design of the building. Fifth, the city will pay 100% of the cost for any addition to the building associated with city co-location. Sixth, cost sharing will be based on a per square foot lease agreement for dedicated and shared space in the current building footprint, using $14 per square foot as a basis for calculating lease cost. Utility and maintenance costs would be split on a prorated basis. Seventh, the agreement will include a termination clause and a buyout option in the event the city vacates the facility. The county would pay the depreciated cost for the city's add-on to the building. Eighth, the county and city will maintain its respective 911 committees, and staff will present updates and progress reports on a quarterly basis to the joint committee. And ninth, the county and city will partner on a grant application to the 911 board and move it forward for the May 31st, 2019 submission deadline. Now, over the weekend, the city responded with changes to be incorporated into the proposed agreement, and those, I believe, have been handed out to you and there at your different positions and different seats. Proposed from the city include a series of 4 different opt-out provisions. These are tied to the design of the building addition, the design of dedicated city space in the existing building, agreement on shared space necessary to support the 911 center, and successfully receiving a grant award from the North Carolina 911 Board. As mentioned previously, the county had one opt-out clause which involved the county purchasing the city's add-on to the building at a depreciated cost if the city decided co-location was not a good fit. Other proposed items from the city include sharing the cost of the building addition, a quote-unquote fair share portion, paying for interior renovations to city-only spaces, and paying rent on a per square foot basis, and there was no amount specified. Split upfit costs for shared space 50-50 with the city to pay rent on 50% of the square footage for shared spaces. Again, no square footage amount specified or dollar amount for the square footage. Staff to work together on a design to meet current and future needs 10, 20, and 30 years into the future. Consensus on co-location and consolidation and working towards those goals. Completion of a joint agreement before construction begins. Sharing of building and operation and maintenance costs. A desire to identify how funding from grants and other sources will be split for the new facility. Joint staff reports to both governing bodies every 3 to 6 months for the first 2 years, and joint 911 committees should continue monthly meetings with a neutral facilitator. And then finally, consolidation within 1 year of occupying the facility. So that's what the city has come back to the county with, and staff at this point is looking to the Board of Commissioners for guidance and direction on where to head next.
I have one light.
Madam Chair, and I just want to make one, I think we left out one thing on the very first thing that the county did, because I was a big proponent that staff was supposed to work together, but that the county would be the final arbitrator of any of the decisions. And I think that's important for that to be in there. It's our building. If you come to an impasse, somebody has to make a decision. That lies with the county. I don't think you mentioned that, but that would have been in the very first thing that we sent over from there.
Okay.
And then I'll wait to hear. At this point, I think, we requested that the city come back at 12 o'clock on
Not later than 12 o'clock
on Friday. I got this today, and I'm just tell you, I was traveling. I drove in from Atlanta. I didn't have opportunity to read, digest, or do any of that. I think we are looking at the end of the month for this grant. At this commissioner, it would be my belief that the county go forth with the 911 individually. If the city wants to make their own grant, they can. If they didn't want to come back and have some discussion about leasing some space in this building, they have the option to do that. It doesn't make sense for the citizens of this community to go another year after we've been through 2 hurricanes. Our 911 sits in a very bad location. I think staff has tried to do this in good faith. I tried to do it in good faith. We've been doing this for 2.5, 3 years. Mr. Keefe longer than I have. At some point, the ball has to move. I think the ball moves tonight. We move forward with just a county proposal for a 911 grant. We've got a building. Let's do it.
Is that a motion?
I don't know if somebody else has some questions first, but that would be a motion at some point. But I'll wait.
I'll come back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
I'll
Keefe
get all
had
the-
his,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have been working on this a long time. I think that the county, when we met as a committee, gave a very inviting proposal based on our original items that Mr. Jackson brought forward. And before we get involved in all of the additional non-negotiables for the city, I'm not sure if that's what they are or not. I believe that we stay with our committee recommendation and move forward with this as a joint outreach with a joint 911 grant. This is truly a situation when it goes to the 911 board at the state level where we are stronger together financially by putting in a grant. We do meet the requirements for them, but I, like Commissioner Adams, have not had a chance to digest all of these items that just came to us this afternoon. I believe we stand firm with what we as a committee decided, and we make that as our recommendation moving forward. And if the city at that time decides to do something, I would ask Mr. Jackson to have a grant proposal in your hip pocket for us going solo if we do not get positive response back. I do agree. We've had 2 hurricanes in 2 years, and our citizens deserve a state-of-the-art 911 facility. But I'd like to make a motion that the committee recommendations, as originally presented by the county manager, be brought forward to the city for a joint 911 facility.
Second the motion.
Well,
may I ask?
Sure.
I attended that meeting also. What Mr. Adams referred to was discussed at that meeting also.
It was.
So here's what I would, because I don't have a problem with putting forth what we put forth out of the 911 committee. But there has to be a deadline.
I agree.
I mean, you can't just do a motion blanket like that, and I guess whether they're going to abide by that or not, we requested 12 o'clock on Friday, no later than, that didn't happen. But it's just from my standpoint, I will go along with your motion if you put me a deadline and a date in there, and if it don't, then we move forward individually by this county.
Okay.
I mean, I think that they heard it Thursday night. They came to the meeting. They said they were going to go Thursday night. They were going to talk about it. They would come back. This is not coming back. This is, I don't even know what that is. I didn't have enough time to even read that. And I will tell you, the little bit that I read, I would not agree to that anyway. Okay, I don't think that's in the best interest of this county, in terms of the county, of what we do. But I would support your motion if you had a drop-down deadline and we move forward. You either accept this or you don't. Let's go. That's all I got.
Madam Chair, if I may ask, the Assistant Manager. Having two grant proposals, do we have the capability of having two?
We have the capability of creating two.
Okay.
The challenge at this point is the time that we have remaining to do that.
I believe that the city of Fayetteville has a meeting on Wednesday night. Mr. Adams, if we put a deadline of noon on Thursday, that's our drop dead, that we either submit singly or jointly. If somebody can help me out on what this Thursday is?
Thursday or Wednesday?
Well, Wednesday, they have a meeting that night.
The 20th, Thursday is the 23rd.
Would you accept that, Mr. Adams?
Yes. Let me see. Yeah, you're talking about Wednesday night they meet.
I believe so. I believe that they meet Wednesday
And
night.
so we would basically reject what they said this is the proposal that we have, which is what we got with the arbitrator clause, and we want it back by a yes or no by Thursday at noon? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And from the perspective, and Commissioner Adams, we've worked on this a long time. I can remember back as a city council person, almost 20 years ago, having this discussion, and we are so close now. We are suffering from an analysis of paralysis here, of not being able to get the ball across the goal line. We have a good plan forward, moving forward for co-location with the intent of consolidation.
And I will tell you, and I don't believe that if even, and I'm going to go with your motion, but I will put this out front, that even if we went along right now, that still doesn't prevent them for coming back, because there's more than enough space in there for them to say, we want this space. Now, it costs them, because they won't have a joint 911 grant, might cost us both a little bit. But at the end of the day, I don't think that this closes the door completely to them. But I think that we, as a county, need to move on. I think it's time for the citizens, for these citizens, for our citizens. And you know, the worst part about this is, I think as I look around this table, all 7 of us live in the city. We would want a joint 911. We would want a consolidated 911 as much as anybody else. But at the end of the day, we have a fiduciary duty to the citizens of Cumberland County to do the right thing. And that's what we're going to do, and I think your motion does that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I need to call on the county manager and Mr. Booth. Go ahead, Mr. Booth.
I'll go along with the Thursday deadline, but don't mean to be the prophet of doom, but if history is any lesson for us, you just laid out that as a city councilman, 20 years ago, you were talking about this. We're still talking about this. So giving them till Thursday at noon to look at what they've already done, I mean, I'd like to thank everybody individually in both boards of commissioners and city council persons for the last 20 years, but
Looks like they
if
rejected
it comes down to out of 20 things on our sheet, they come back with 10 yes, 10 no, then I know it's going to happen. Someone's going to say, well, let's give them till the following Thursday at noon.
We don't have a Thursday. The end of the month is the end of the month. That's our grant deadline.
That's what I'm saying, is that I don't think that they're going to make the leap to our document by Thursday at noon, by meeting Wednesday night. I'm hopeful, but I'm not being realistic
So they
and
already
thinking
had
that's
it?
going to happen.
They already had it?
They've already had it, and it wasn't even close to what they said. I did get a chance to read all this.
Okay.
I wasn't driving back from Atlanta, and things like opt out, no financial penalty to the city. It ends every one of their provisions that they don't have any financial risk in this, and that's not being realistic when you start, building buildings. I'm going to go along with the motion because I'd like it to happen, but I agree with Glenn that we've got to do this for Cumberland County. We were all out in these messes these last 2 years, and we got to be better prepared.
All right, I have another commissioner who wishes to speak. Madam Chair,
Just one point of clarification. If the city does agree to the terms that the commissioners have laid out, we will need the interlocal agreement approved by both bodies. In order to have a strong a joint grant application, those terms need to be approved in an interlocal agreement by both bodies. Am I correct, Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
We have some budget meetings, don't we?
Our budget presentation is Thursday, May the 30th.
all right, I'm sorry. Let me get some clarity to this.
I'm thinking we would need a special meeting.
And this would be worth a special meeting if you can.
It would be.
I just wanted to let the board, make sure you were aware of that.
We would need a special meeting, but we're going to start working on this now.
We have the template of the interlocal agreement. We just need to insert the terms that are agreed upon.
All right. Mr. Fairclough.
I wasn't in Atlanta today, but I was moving around quite a bit, and I did not see this till tonight. So I haven't looked at it in detail, but just a little bit I've been perusing it while I've been sitting here. There's really nothing in here that we didn't talk in principle about and pretty much agree on anyway, and it's just not, there's not anything here that's a deal breaker in my opinion.
What, in
But-
this, right here?
Yeah. At any of these points, yes, the city can opt out, but until real money is spent, why would you not want them to be able to do that? That's not, if the worst happens and we agree in principle to go forward with this and we get an interlocal agreement together that presents the best case scenario, and at that point it's a no-go, well then we figure out a way to split the money. That's not a difficult thing.
But-
Before we actually spend any dollars one way or the other, we want the city, if they cannot find a way to deal with the county for some reason, cannot go through with the project, then we don't want them in it. We don't want them in it against their will. We don't want a binding deal. We want a deal that works mutually. Because the final deal and the goal behind the whole thing is consolidation. So co-location, there's not anything here that we didn't agree in principle on, in my opinion.
The only question I asked, Marshall, I guess if I look down there, every one of those opt-out, we've spent some money. So when it says no, the financial cost to the city, does that mean I reimburse them for everything that's been spent to that point? I can't tell as we move down. I didn't have enough time to read it. The second thing is with the motion, if it's to send forth the agreement that we have, why would we not send forth the interlocal agreement at the same time? They can vote on it that night. They don't have to have a special meeting if that's what we're looking at doing, is sending that back. We send the interlocal with it. And we would have to have another meeting,
Right.
but they wouldn't have to have another one. They'd already have it. So we might as well send it both at the same time.
We can do that.
Okay. I'm turning lights off. Are there any more lights?
No, he didn't say that.
Okay.
He said we need one, we need to send one.
Madam Chair, can I get a point of clarity? You're not saying sign the current draft, vote on it tonight? Are you saying?
No, you said send that back for them to say yea or nay, but I'm saying send the interlocal with it too.
So, and I asked the manager here and the chairman, if we vote on our interlocal agreement right now, have we taken that, is our interlocal agreement drafted?
Yes.
It would be a proposal to them. They can accept it. It would still have to have us to accept it on our end.
Okay, but it's not an official document yet?
No, it's a draft.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, I'm fine.
At some point, I'm sorry, I'm breaking in here, but at some point, Glenn, let me look at you.
I'm sorry.
At some point, all of this needs to be reduced to writing. I mean, all of these things need to be in that agreement. And if this is, unless there's a deal breaker here, and I
But
don't-
does it go along
honestly-
with the one that we, like I said, I didn't have a chance to read it. Did it go along with the one that we did?
In my opinion, that agreement, that probably does not have the protection that the city is looking for at this time, and we probably need to put that language in there somehow, no, do we not?
Well, I'm not in favor of that.
Well, I don't know. We agreed in principle in our meeting that they could, that if it was not to their satisfaction, they could get out of it.
But not without penalty, though.
Well, not
Not without penalty.
We
That
didn't-
says without penalty.
We didn't discuss penalty. What we discussed was before any significant money spent. Now, if there's money spent, then that needs to be addressed too, Glenn, in my opinion, because, you know, if we spend money at some point and they come up with a deal breaker, then we need to be reimbursed for that, and that needs to be in there.
I think some of these items, especially number 3, we would be incurring costs. We would have an architect on board, and we would be incurring design cost. So I think there would be a financial impact. And if we move forward together with the city, the design costs would be greater than if we would move in individually. So I do think there is a financial impact to at least 2 and 3, and maybe even number 1.
Mr. Booth?
And again, in just the summary that Mr. Jackson gave us, it seemed like that there were some figures he was saying that we had sent over. We got terms back from them about figuring out what the fair share would be. I thought you'd sent over like $14 a square foot. I don't see that in their proposal.
Yes, that's
It looks like
correct.
they're still ciphering. So I don't see anything close to an agreement when you start talking about per square foot and pro rata, and then they come back with calculations to be determined. It's not an agreement. Yeah, I don't rent a place on, we'll figure out the rent after I move in.
Is number 1 the condominium? Is that the condominium? Where you said no, Marshall? The building addition?
We kind of slam dunk the condominium.
Well, that kind of said there's a building addition right there. I mean, the thing about it is whether you build something big enough on the side that you move out of the building and then you have that, and then they say we don't owe you any rent, but they still on still on our footprint. I mean, it's just, ours was much more succinct to the point. I think you and Mr. Keefe and the
We're very
committee
generous.
did a wonderful job. I was a little bit higher than y'all, but I think, no,
Yeah.
you know, at some point, I gave in, because I thought that, you know, the better practice was for us to be able to do this jointly. You know, I was at a higher rent, I was on the other side, and y'all brought me back to the middle, and I think that that's where we were. And I thought that we've given to get to where we got to on that day. And, you know, I applaud you all for doing that. I try to listen. And, you know, that day I went with you all. And now I just not going to be pulled much further than that. I'm just sorry. So there's a motion on the floor.
Which is?
There is
Thursday
a
at noon, give them a chance to respond.
motion on the floor. Are you prepared to read it back? Does anyone?
What was the motion, Madam Chair?
Commissioner Keefe moved to follow the original committee recommendations that were brought forward. And then, I guess, to amend that motion, you added the May 23rd, Thursday at noon.
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a second to that motion?
There was.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Second. There was a statement that Mr. Adams made at that meeting on the,
Adding the county as the final arbitrator of any final decisions that need to be made.
I will accept that amendment to the motion.
All right?
You will.
I will.
Yes, he
Marshall.
accepts that, so general consensus.
Are we sending over a proposal or a draft of the interlocal agreement, or are we going to wait?
No, we're sending.
Madam Chair, as a practical matter, with the timing, the interlocal agreement has to be entered into the minutes of both governing boards. If we run the clock out past this week for everybody, that's probably not going to happen, so it really needs to be sent.
All right? With the understanding of this board that the interlocal agreement goes forward also. The dinosaur on the board has been here before. Mr. Keefe is telling me not to bring all that up. So I will shut up, Mr. Keefe.
You've never listened to me before, Madam Chair.
Hurry, call for the motion, he can put his light on.
But I have been looking forward to a day that we could work together in harmony for the good of all 330,000 citizens of this county. And I hope, I fervently hope that this is it, because we have been through some of every kind of discussion known to man or womankind, and had some very detailed discussions. I think this is it. I feel positive, okay? Therefore, I am calling the question on the motion. Those in favor of the motion as stated?
Voting in favor, Commissioners Keefe, Lancaster, Faircloth, Chair, Council, Commissioners Booth and Adams. Voting in opposition, Commissioner Evans.
Thank you.
Item number 5, Madam Chair, are our nominations.
Somebody nominate somebody.
Nominations, would you please go to the, I have nominations for the Community Care Block Grant Committee, Joanne Yokley and Kevin Walker.
Madam Chair, for the Cumberland County Workforce Development Board, I would nominate Dr. Mark Sorrells.
All right, thank you, and we'll go to Mr. Lancaster for the ABC Board, please.
Yes, ma'am. Francis Jackson, who is eligible for another term, and Alex Warner, who is also eligible.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no lights, we will go on to the appointment, Mr. Fairclough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The jury commission has one vacancy, and at this time, I would move that nominee Scott Flowers be appointed by acclamation.
Second.
Second, okay. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. At this time, I need to recess the Board of Commissioners meeting and call to order the Bragg Estates Water and Sewer District Governing Board.
Madam Chair, this evening,
Yes.
we have 2 items for Bragg Estates. We have item 7A, which is approval of the June 15th, 2015 minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of June 15, 2015.
Second.
All right, those in favor?
Unanimous.
Item 7B is consideration of Cumberland County Bragg Estates sanitary sewer easement.
7B?
I'd move for approval of the easement
Okay.
as shown.
I looked wrong, looked at my notes wrong.
And the payment is part of it too?
Yes, that's
Oh,
correct.
Same thing, okay. I just didn't know if there was
Thank
2
you.
parts.
No, thank you.
Second.
Yep.
All right, we ready to vote? Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to close the Bragg Estates Water and Sewer District meeting, reconvene the regular Board of Commissioners meeting, and I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Guys, thank you.